You're listening to 23 Jungle Tales on the Sports Objective. Between now and opening day, we will talk to 23 former Pirate baseball players about their path to East Carolina, their time in the purple and gold, and what they're up to now. Now let's talk Pirate baseball. Welcome into the Sports Objective. 23 Jungle Tales. Our series rolls on as East Carolina baseball's opening day is approaching very quickly. And right now, we're very excited to be joined by a guy who just concluded his Pirate career a little less than 2 years ago. Welcome in West Columbus High School product, Trey Benton. Trey, we appreciate your time this afternoon.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely. We appreciate you coming on the program to take a look back at your East Carolina career, and let's just start off. Take us back to, 2014, 2015, when you were playing at West Columbus, a very successful high school career there. Obviously, baseball in the eastern part of the state is so just very, very good. And so just talk about your path from West Columbus High School and your recruitment and what made you settle on Cliff Godwin's program here in Greenville.
Yeah, so I went to West Columbus over in Columbus County. All the high schools around here are 1A. Turner Brown went to Whiteville, which is 2A now, but it was 1A for the first 3 years of my high school career. And everybody looks at 1A and think, you played in an easy conference, but I think our conference could have played up with some 4A conferences because it was really strong. You look back, we had Eric Jenkins get drafted second round. Mackenzie Gore went first round. He's had a kid this past year go fifth round. There's a lot of draftees out of this county, and a lot of guys that go play D1 college ball. So it's a strong baseball county, and the town I'm from, Cerro Gordo, North Carolina, is only 200 people here. Very small town, but a lot of baseball comes out of it. There's not much, and they're pretty good at basketball. They're not very good at football, but they're always pretty good at baseball. And that's kind of like the center of the town is when baseball season's going around is everybody's out and watching. I graduated in 2016. So, my sophomore year, obviously hit a growth spurt. Started throwing the ball a little bit harder as, you start to get a little bit older, get a little bigger, you start throwing a little bit harder. And started playing with the dirt bags right after my sophomore season. Both my parents went to East Carolina. So when I started pitching well enough where I thought I could go play D1 baseball, obviously East Carolina was a place that would be cool to go play at. And I remember it was probably the end of my summer season with the Dirtbags, my first year. And I guess that was, that would have been in 2014. And then I went up to Trey Daly at one of the tournaments, and I said, "Hey, man, you need to get me hooked up with East Carolina because I want to go play there." And he said, "All right, let me go talk to Roselle." I think Roselle was at the game that we were playing at. I wasn't pitching, but Roselle was there. And I think Trey Daly went and talked to him, said I was interested. And that same tournament, I pitched, I think, a day or two later, and Coach Palumbo was the first guy to see me. And he came out and saw me. I threw pretty well. And he might have saw me one more time, and he told Coach Godwin to come see me when we played a week or two later in Fort Myers. And I got on the phone with Coach Godwin before, I believe. I just talked to him, told him I was interested, and played at Fort Myers 2 weeks later, I think. And we were playing a team, and it had just downpoured rain the night before. I got out there and was pitching on a soaking wet mound. Coach Godwin was there. Pitched really good. I think I went 4 perfect innings. And after the game, I remember I think right after the game, we were getting in the team van to go back to the hotel, and my coach Andy Parton said, "Hey, I think Coach Godwin wants you to give him a call." And so I called him right when we got back to the hotel, and I was actually rooming with Matt Bridges and Cam Colmore because I was playing up on the or they were playing down with us because they were a little bit younger for their grade. And I remember I was in there, and they were both committed to ECU. And I got on the phone with Coach Godwin. He was like, "Hey, man, look, you threw really good today, but what I was impressed with was how you got out there and pitched on a soaking wet mound. I didn't see you make one excuse, and you battled through it, and you had really good stuff. And I want to get you on campus and offer you a scholarship." And that was very exciting. Matt Bridges and Cam Colmore were excited too because we were good buddies then. And I got on campus with Coach Godwin, and he's a really intense guy. And a lot of people who have even my brother, who isn't there anymore, he's at UNCW now, but I think he had more scholarship money from Carolina. But when he got on a visit with Coach Godwin, it was just night and day. And he committed to Coach Godwin and them. It's just the way Coach Godwin presents himself and how his mindset and the culture that ECU baseball has, you just can't turn it down. And but anyways, I got on campus, had the visit, committed right on the spot. I think I want to say I was the second commit, right behind Packard. And after that, obviously finished my high school career. Had my senior year, really made a big jump. Started throwing, low 90s, touching mid 90s, and had the opportunity to sign out of high school, and turned that down because we made a commitment with Coach Godwin. We had a number set, and if we didn't get that money, then we were going to go to ECU, and we got right under the dollar figure. And me and my dad, my mom sat down and we were like, "Look, I think we need to go to college because, when you're 17, I hadn't turned 18 yet. There's still more growing up to do." And it's, I'm very happy that I went to ECU because the way Coach Godwin runs the program there and how he teaches you to be not just a great baseball player, but a great human being and a future great father and businessman. It makes a big difference in you. And I can tell a big difference in how I was out of high school to how I am now. Just with the growing up he helped me do there. ECU baseball, the culture there is just incredible. It's all about toughness. And we can get more into that later when we keep going, but the things you do there are different than other places. And you have to be different to play there because you got to have the toughness to come in there. And, he's not going to give it to anybody just because you're a big recruit or just because he likes you better than somebody else. It's all about how your work ethic is and how you can perform under pressure there. So, yeah, I'm very happy that I chose East Carolina because it's made a big difference with me.
Yeah, Trey, that's something we'll circle back around to later on for sure, as far as Coach Godwin and Coach Palumbo and that coaching staff and preparing you guys not only to win baseball games but just life. But the Pirates had won a regional in 2016 and defeated UVA up in Charlottesville and gone to the Supers. Just 90 feet away from Omaha, so close to going to the College World Series. So the program was really cooking when you were coming in. We were preseason number 6 in the country. But just talk about, before we get to that 2017 season, just talk about what it was like making that transition from high school to college baseball. And you kind of alluded to it a little bit already, but talk about the fall of 2016.
Yeah, so, before you get to East Carolina, I think everybody knows that it's going to be tough. But you don't realize it until you get there that it's it's the real deal. And before you get there in the summer, most people tell you, hey, you need to make sure you're in shape. You need to make sure you're ready to roll because it's going to get real when you get there. So before I got there, obviously I was doing some hard workouts that I thought were hard. and some, some conditioning and stuff to get ready. But when you show up on campus, it's a different animal. And we got there and started working out. I think it was, my freshman class with the JUCO transfers we had that year, and we had a pretty good amount of upperclassmen there to kind of lead us through it. I think Cruz was there. Bryce Harmon. No, I don't think Bryce Harmon was there. There were
Eric
quite a few.
Tyler and Charlie.
Yeah, Eric Tyler was there. Charlie was there. I can't name every one of them off the bat, but there was a good amount of seniors and juniors there. And right off the bat, you start running those stadiums in the Boneyard, and the Mission Week. Every week is a challenge, and it's all about just getting tougher. And I think that's a big reason why I think we compete with SEC teams, even though we are not in the SEC. Because we train to be tougher than you. And when we go play teams like Ole Miss and Mississippi State, and we play South Carolina, I think we're not intimidated at all by the SEC on the side of their jersey, because we've been through a lot harder than they have, I think. And I think the workouts give us a lot of confidence that we know we can get through that, and we know we can beat those teams.
In that 2017 season, like I said, on such high expectations, and so you found yourself on the back end of the weekend rotation. And you started 14 games, and right off the bat, top 8 matchup between East Carolina and Ole Miss down at Swayze Field in Oxford. Just talk about that. Your first taste of Division I baseball being against number 8 Ole Miss at Swayze Field, like I mentioned, in front of nearly 9,500.
Yeah, that was it was actually, I think it was a good thing for me, because it just it broke the ice real quick. You go to throwing. I mean, you go from throwing inter squads at ECU, and I think Purple Gold, you probably have 500 fans, and now I hadn't ever played in front of over maybe 500 to 1,000 fans before. And then, my first start was on that Sunday game at Ole Miss, and there was, I think there was about 9,500, like you said. And it was a big punch in the mouth early, because, I didn't have a very good start. I had a pretty good beginning to my start, but then that second inning, things kind of sped up a little bit. And then, Coach Godwin isn't going to, their first start, Coach Godwin isn't going to let a freshman go out there and just rot out there. So, it was a good start to my career there, because it really showed me, what college baseball is about when you get to the nitty gritty. That was a real fun time. I think that helped our freshman class a lot, because it was a real big atmosphere there. And it was a lot of fun, because it's pretty similar to ECU. I mean, their student section out in right field was heckling us the whole time we were in the bullpen during BP. So it kind of helped with kind of helping get tuning things out a little bit more. And when we got back to ECU and the fans were for us, and the atmosphere was about the same, it was a lot easier to play in.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So very similar atmospheres, obviously more fans there in Oxford. But like Cliff Godwin said after the 2019 regional, even though there may be larger crowds, none are more passionate and into the ball game than Pirate Nation for sure. Yep. So what are some memories of yours in addition to that Ole Miss series from your freshman year that really stand out? I know you pitched 71 innings, and you had a team high 74 Ks.
Yeah. So, right after that Ole Miss game, I sat down with Coach Godwin, and Coach Godwin kind of gave it to me a little bit. Say, hey, look, you're gonna be one of our guys. So you got to get in the you got to have the confidence every week to go out there and execute pitches. And that talk with him really set my mind straight and to say, hey, there's no, not trying to do too much, just go out there and, try to help the team win every time. And my next out and the first time I pitched ECU was had a really good game. I think it was five or six innings. Maybe I had like 10 Ks. And then from right there, I started pitching really good. Probably there was a stretch where I pitched really good for a while. And then, I think right in the middle to the back end of the season, it kind of hit a wall because, it's actually the first time I've pitched that much in a season. And, it's every weekend, it's every weekend's the same thing. So you get into a routine, and then when you get in that routine, sometimes you can get beat down through the season a little bit and your body starts wearing down. And, then started going through a little rough patch. And so that freshman year really taught me that I needed to get more physical, get into better shape where I can last a whole season and, kind of get better as the season goes on instead of fading. But yeah, I think that was a big thing my freshman year, because we played those. We got into a. Oh, you on there? You on there, Bob? Hey, can you hear me?
I got you now. Give me just one moment.
Okay.
All right, now we're good. Sorry, I don't know what was going on there, having some connectivity issues, but maybe the last 15 seconds, we lost you.
Okay. Yeah, but I think that freshman year really helped with showing, how things needed to be done in the future. My freshman year compared to my sophomore year and my junior year, there was a big difference with how the team, gelled together. My freshman year, it was more of the freshmen the freshmen kind of hung out together. And then, the seniors and juniors kind of hung out together. And it wasn't so much of all together as it was my sophomore and junior year, because my sophomore and junior year, the whole team was close the whole year. There wasn't any like seniors hanging out with only seniors, freshmen with only freshmen. It was, senior takes a freshman out to eat and, get to know them better. And the team just got along a lot better, and we were close. I mean, my sophomore year and junior year were the closest I've ever been with teammates, and it was a real fun time. I think that's the biggest difference between those my freshman year and then my sophomore junior year, was just with how the team was close together, and we held each other accountable to get it done each day, and it helped in the long run.
Yeah, like Coach Godwin said, as disappointing as it was, that 2017 season, and nearly making that run through the conference tournament and coming up just shy, falling to Houston in the championship game. He said he really thought in hindsight it was a kind of a blessing in disguise, because it allowed us to get our program where we needed to as far as our culture.
Yeah, you hear that from Coach Godwin all the time, is that at the time in the conference tournament, obviously we wanted to win that game because, we would have won that game, we would have made a regional. But, when you look back at it, how things went, if we would have won that game, went on to a regional, possibly won a regional, went to a super, nobody would have looked back and saw that how we did things was not right that year. And, it helped us learn from it. And, that next fall, the next year was tough. Coach Godwin was on us a lot harder. And I think it paid dividends in the end, because we were all tougher. We were all closer together. There was more of a team bond. And in the end, it was a lot better. So
So in 2018, your sophomore year, you had kind of a split role. You started off the year in the rotation, and then I guess toward the end of April, you shifted over to a relief role. So just talk about your sophomore year and your memories of that.
Yeah. So my fall of my sophomore year, really pitched good. Me and Jake really pitched good. I think it was a toss up for who could have been Friday night starter. And I came out of the gates pretty hot. I had that Carolina game was a big game for me. It's probably the best game I've ever pitched, honestly. And I had a good run the beginning of my sophomore year. Hit another bump. Started getting hit around a little bit more. My pitches weren't playing as good as they were early in the year. And then went to Coach Godwin, and he said, I think you got too much pressure on yourself. We're going to move you to the bullpen to see if you can take the pressure off yourself and just come in and execute pitches. And went to the bullpen. First time out was against Houston. Runners on second and third with no outs or one out. And I remember I just came in with a different mindset of just, I'm going to beat you, and you're not going to hit me. I'm going to give you my best stuff, and I'm just going to make every pitch. I'm going to execute every pitch, and I'm just going to help us win. And that ended up helping me a lot, and it changed my mindset on the mound a lot. I was a lot more effective. My pitches were playing better because I was more aggressive. And then at the time, after coming off of the rotation into the bullpen, I wasn't pitching that good, so I didn't have all the confidence. Coach Godwin didn't have all the confidence in me at the time, and then I just slowly started to earn back his trust. He would bring me in situations. I feel like he would always bring me in when there were bases loaded or second and third with no outs or one out, and I would just make pitches and find a way to get out of it. So I was like I turned into like I don't know what you'd call it, like the tight situation guy. And then went over to kind of like a closer role. And, we had a lot of good arms in the bullpen. So it was just it started to get where it was just all about the matchups. And, if there were a lot of lefties, they would bring Ryan Ross in, or, I think actually Jake was in the bullpen with us too. So Jake or Ryan Ross would come in for lefties, and then me or Volve or Sam Lanier, and this feels like forever ago now. But but we would just come in based on the matchup and pitch really good at the end of my sophomore year. So it was a good end. I liked how my sophomore year ended. It was a lot better ending than my freshman year based on my performance.
Yeah, you mentioned two games that I had made a note to ask you about. First, we'll start with that tremendous outing you had, 6 innings against the number 6 Tar Heels at Clark LeClaire Stadium. The only run you allowed was unearned, and you surrendered just 2 hits in those 6 frames, 11 strikeouts, and not a single walk, and just 89 pitches to do it. That's one of those, if it's a little bit later in the year where you have more pitches under your belt, more innings of work, and that you probably go a little bit longer in the game, but you definitely had it going that night.
Yeah, that was. I was actually just talking about that game. Yesterday, because I just remembered how every pitch I threw I was just executing every single pitch, and I don't know how I was dotting up that game, but I was putting every pitch wherever I wanted to, and obviously it was a big rivalry game. I was jacked up and ready to go, and start off the game. The crowd, that was the in my opinion, well, that's the most electric Clark LeClaire's been when I pitched there, when I had a start. And it was just, thrown in the bullpen before the game. There were tons of people out there in the jungle. And it was, I had butterflies the whole time. I was real nervous. That first inning just kind of got my feet up under me. And then as the game went on, I just kind of got more aggressive and just kept going at them. And I was actually throwing a sinker then. I was throwing my sinker ball then. Now I just go four seam because my ball rides a little bit. But I was throwing sinkers, and that they just could not hit the sinker. And I remember when I went in the dugout after the sixth, it was after the fifth or after I came out in the sixth. I told them, you need to bring Smitty and Todd Smith because they can't hit the sinker, and Smitty's got a really good sinker. And Smitty came in and shut the door for those last 3 innings, and that was a good feeling going them coming to our place, and it was a tight pitcher's duel and us beating them out. That was a really good feeling. That was probably my favorite moment, other than winning the regional. That was my favorite moment in college because just how we pitched that game and how crazy the atmosphere was. And how well I performed in a big environment in a rivalry game. So,
yeah, it was definitely a regional or super regional like atmosphere. That was a lot of fun. I know Coach Godwin and obviously Coach Fox has retired now, but hopefully Coach Godwin and Coach Forbes will be able to make that happen as far as one in Greenville, one in Chapel Hill, and then one in Durham or wherever.
yeah.
That was a tremendous weekend of baseball for sure, and excellent for not only college baseball as a whole, but specifically within the state of North Carolina. But and then the relief outing against Houston that you talked about, you went 3 2/3 and 6 Ks in those 11 outs you recorded in shutout relief, and that was one that was definitely sticking out in my mind as well. But just talk about, and you already talked about the closeness and just the team chemistry throughout your sophomore and junior seasons. So just talk about having the opportunity to host regionals in those years.
Yeah, the regionals were a lot of fun. I think if we could go back to it, I wish that rain wouldn't have came up on my sophomore year when Agnos was shoving against Wilmington and had that long delay, and then they just put up 9 runs in 1 inning. I wish we'd go back to that because I think maybe we could have won that regional, and that could have been our year. Because I don't really know which team was better, my sophomore year or junior year, because we were really good both years. But it was a lot of fun to host a regional. To have the teams come to your place and to know that you're one of the top 16 seeds. And they're coming in, and they already know what kind of atmosphere that it's going to be there. And then, when I still get chill bumps thinking about it, the first game against Wilmington, when they ran out on the field and the crowd was loud. I mean, it was awesome. That first game against UNCW was that was probably one of the best, besides the championship game against Campbell. That was a crazy atmosphere too. I think the Campbell game in the championship when we beat them, when Gavin started, that's probably the best atmosphere I've seen there. It was just, I had Tommy John, so I had my arm in a brace, and me and Lane Hoover and Smallwood were kind of hiding in the locker room. And but while everything was starting up, and then as soon as the game started, we'd come out and sit in the dugout because they had the rule about how many guys could be in the dugout. But I just could hear it under the stadium, how loud it was. And, that's the stuff you remember. That's the stuff you go talk to people about when you get into pro ball, about how crazy the atmosphere was at ECU. And they all agree with it. The guys that went and play there, I had a roommate from UNC, and then I had a roommate from South Florida. And both of them always talk about, how crazy it was when they got to play there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, just talk about Coach Dan Rozelle. Of course, Coach Rozelle moved on to University of Kentucky, but talk about him as a pitching coach and your development under his tutelage.
Yeah, Coach Rozelle is a big part of me growing up too, I think. He helped me a lot with, when I came in, my senior season of high school, I just figured out how to throw a little bit of gas, and I got in there and he said, "Hey, look, you're not going to come in and be jerking your head and trying to throw as hard as you can. Here you're going to be dotting up on the, on the black, and you're going to be executing pitches. It's not, they had a hard time with me because I always wanted to look up at the radar gun, see how hard I was throwing. and they shut that down really quick. Especially, both Godwin and Rosedale shut that down real quick. But Rosedale really taught me how to be a pitcher. I came in as a thrower. Coach Rosedale taught me how to be a pitcher, and he helped me with my routines a lot better than they were coming in. I think I take the stuff that he taught me. He taught me a lot more about pitching than anybody else. Just how to attack hitters, how to be aggressive. So I'll be forever thankful for him, because he was a very big part of my career at ECU, helping me grow up and becoming a better pitcher.
One of the things, a tremendous asset for you was your command. You always had an excellent strikeout to walk ratio, 4 and 5 to 1. But talk about, Coach Rosedale and Coach Godwin. It seems like I recall at times, almost saying that we need him to throw some more balls.
Yeah, and I think that hurt me a little bit sometimes. Rosedale helped me with my command a lot. I think the first bullpen I had there was I think the end of your bullpen, you just got to throw 10 strikes right down the middle. It's just little things like that helps. Just becoming a better pitcher and commanding the zone, because the hitters are better and they're not going to chase as much as they do in high school. So you got to know how to, where to put your pitches and how to, be able to go to them and put them exactly where you want whenever you want to. But I think sometimes I would get to where I was filling up the zone a little too much, and I think that was the case probably more so my sophomore year than my freshman year, but it happened in both years. I think I was throwing the sinker my sophomore year, and really that thing at the beginning of the year, especially the Carolina game, it had so much downward action that Washer, every single time, he would give me the horns, which means right down the middle. So I would aim down the middle and just sink it right down to try to get a swing and miss, or just try to square them up every time. And then I had some games where that sinker kind of flattened out, and unless Coach Rosedale's standing right behind me and can see what it's doing, he's calling right down the middle, and I'm throwing a little throwing a home run pitch. So it's I think those are the games when it would flatten out and I would be filling up the zone too much. Those are the games where I got hurt, and some games where I could could have gone back and looked at it and said, I needed to play around with outside of the zone a little bit. But another thing at ECU is, you're not going to walk batters. We pitch aggressive at ECU, so we're going to be the dominator over the hitter. So so that's the thing about it. I think sometimes I was too in the zone and got hit around a little bit. So I guess that answers your question a little bit.
Earlier in the conversation, Trey, we talked about Coach Godwin and the program's commitment to being a total program and developing the student athlete in all areas of life. The acronym Pirates, reading Keith LeClair's book, Coaching Third, everything with all the academic support, 3.4 GPA or higher for at least 5 or 6 consecutive semesters now for the program. So just talk about all those aspects. You've already touched on Mission Week, but on some of those others I just mentioned.
Yeah. So one thing Coach Godwin was really serious about is, your school. I had a tough time with school, just staying on it and being very what's the word I'm looking for? I'm blanking.
Diligent.
Yeah, being diligent with your time, because obviously in the season is tough when you're you'll fly out on a Thursday, miss class Thursday, Friday, then you're playing on the weekend, and then usually get home real late on Sundays, Sunday night, usually midnight or after. So it's tough when you get in the season, because you miss a lot of class. And you're thinking about playing baseball a lot more than you are in the fall, because, a lot of times if I'm in class on a Friday and I'm pitching that Friday night, I was not locked in at all for class. So I was only thinking about my game plan for that night. And that's where Coach Gowan really pushes you to make sure you're talking to your teachers, getting close with your professors, and making sure when you have time and you're not playing, you're meeting with your professors, going over things you've missed, and in study hall, and figuring out how to get the highest GPA that you can get. And I think that's why he has so much success with grades during the season, especially there, because he makes sure he's meeting. Because when I go in the office with Coach Gowan during the season, I'm not just meeting about how I'm pitching. I'm meeting with how's my personal life going, how's school going, how's baseball going. It's the whole thing. So he does a really good job with that. And, the culture there is to be excellent with everything you're doing at all times. So it doesn't matter if you're, playing, you're going to be excellent with your routines and how you're doing things. In school, you're going to be excellent with, how you communicate with your professor and how you do your work, and all that good stuff. And I think in the end, it makes a big difference, because it teaches you that all things kind of play together to help you become, who you really need to be.
Everything that you went through, I'm sure, prepared you tremendously for your minor league baseball experience. Unfortunately, things last year were really shut down before they ever got started, unfortunately. But so just talk about going in the 15th round to the Cleveland Indians, coming off the injury that you had already referenced earlier in the conversation, and just tell us about your professional career thus far.
Yeah. So when so the middle of my junior year, I had a little rough patch at the beginning, but I started pitching really well, started figuring it out, throwing harder. My stuff was playing really good. Me and my agent were in contact, and he was saying he was getting some scouts out, some cross checkers and stuff to come see me, because I was starting to tap into my best potential. And right about that time, started against UNCW at home, throwing really good, and then threw a changeup and hit the batter, picked off right after, and I felt it immediately in my elbow. And I was hoping it was just tightness or something, because it wasn't like a pop or anything, but it was a tightness through my whole arm. And got with Womack and worked with him, did some treatment for a few days. Went to see the doc, and he said you need to go get an MRI just to make sure. Went and got an MRI, and we had a slight tear, but I didn't think it was big enough. Well, the doctor didn't think it was big enough to need surgery. We were hoping it was just going to be a PRP injection, which would only be 5 or 6 months until you're playing again. But went down to Florida to Dr. Andrews. We did another MRI there with the contrast or the dye in my arm, and he saw the tear was a little bit worse than we thought at first. So he wanted to go ahead and do surgery. So while I was down there, went ahead and had surgery, which sucked, because I think that could have been. I always think back, what if if I would have been healthy and kept on building through that year, what could have been. I could have helped in the super regional, and maybe we could have won that thing. So this is things I think about a lot, that I wish I could have finished healthy my junior year, because you never know what that could have been our Omaha year. But yep. And then didn't really have much of a choice. Had to sign because I couldn't put things up in the air. Because I wouldn't have played my this past year. I would have been playing this coming up year, which would have been my 5th year senior year, and needed to get into professional baseball while I was still 21. And got in there, rehabbed with the Indians. Rehab went really great. My live BP's back. I was back throwing up to 96 again, so it was feeling good. and I shut it down, and then I'm back ramping back up for this year.
I actually have a question from one of our viewers, longtime Pirate fan, East Carolina alum, Mike Radford, chimes in saying, and Trey, what it's like to go on the road, to UNC Wilmington, Chapel Hill, Raleigh, Duke, etc., and so many Pirate fans be in attendance, and to kind of own the road atmosphere, be a home away from home game.
Yeah, that is a very cool part about playing for ECU, is that it always feels good showing up to another park. Campbell, UNCW, UNC. Every time we went on the road, it was always a home game for us because the Pirate fans always come out. There's Pirate fans all around. So, we had Pirate fans down in Ole Miss that were from there. They're always around, and especially in-state games, we always own it. We play at Campbell. It's a packed house there, and, people think, oh, it's just because, ECU's a popular team, so they're bringing out more fans. And no, it's just we travel well, and we have a lot of fans that come out to see us play. So my favorite memory about that is when we played at UNC last year midweek, or in 19 midweek, and they're having purple gold chants, and it was the UNC fans had no chance there because we just overrid them. It was a home game there. It was no doubt. It was there were way more ECU fans than Carolina fans there. And even my roommate with the Indians was Ike Freeman, which was he was our shortstop or third baseman, and we were talking about that a lot. He was saying, "Man, I had no idea y'all were gonna take over. It was gonna be like a home game for y'all because we had a ton of fans there, and that's awesome to see because there it's very seldom unless you go to some conference games or down to Ole Miss, Mississippi State that you have more opposing fans than your fans. But all the in-state games, it's always fun because we travel well and we always have the most fans, so it feels really good to have that support.
Yeah, even though I'm originally from Lexington, the last 10 years I've been living in China Grove, home of Eric Tyler. But, Ike Freeman played at East Rowan, so very familiar with Ike. And I was at that game that you were talking about in Chapel Hill. I remember when Jake Washer hit that home run or grand slam to left field, and seeing some of those pictures after the game, of I guess maybe it was Cooch and Agnos and some of them in the dugout, just frame by frame. As soon as that ball came off the bat, it was pretty funny.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I remember that was one of the coolest moments, was seeing that ball go out, because I think it really shocked Carolina because I don't really remember what we were ranked versus them. Do you know that?
I don't recall exactly, but yes, it was a.
I want to say it
was a marquee matchup for sure. You knew we were going to be in the running for hosting, as were they.
Yeah, and that was really cool because I want to say they were ranked a spot or two ahead of us. I can't really remember, but we came in and hit them right off the bat, right in the mouth, and that was really fun. That was it got close at times, and it was very a nerve-wracking game, but he pulled it out. That was a real fun game too.
Yeah, the funny thing about that 6-run inning, like you said, jumping on them right out of the gates, we really did it with small ball and some miscues where they weren't able to handle some of the bunts we laid down, and then boom, Wash hits the no doubter on the grand slam.
Yeah, the only two things about that inning I can remember, I think Lane Hoover bunted and Washer hit a jack. That's the only two things I can remember about that inning. But I remember we put up some runs real quick.
And another memory involving the Tar Heels was that 2018 Sunday game. We won 12-1 or something like that. But late in that ball game, once the issue was pretty much decided, there was a play down the left field line. The Tar Heel, I don't know if it was the left fielder or the shortstop, but he was going to throw the ball, and it slipped out of his hands and went into the stands. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. That was I remember that now. That was funny because it was I think it got to a point that game we were beating them pretty good, and also we had a lot of fans there too. So it's always cool when you kind of can get in the home team's head with your fans that travel. So that was pretty good. That was a fun game too, because I remember it was a rubber match. And Hobo was on the mound. He was throwing really well at the time too. Me and him really started out hot that year, and he came out, shut the door on them. I think he went 7, and the bats were rolling. So yeah, that was a good time too. That was a real good weekend for us.
Trey, working in reverse a little bit, while we were on your East Carolina career, I know in the summer of 18, just talk about the opportunity you had to go up and pitch in the Cape, and you were on the same team as Brick and also Gavin Williams with the Bourne Braves.
Yeah, that was a real fun time. I had a lot of fun in the Cape. Made a lot of good buddies that I'm still close friends with, and got to actually, we played together, me, Brick, and Gavin, and we also lived together. So we had a great host family. They owned like a motel, so the house was like the lobby downstairs in the front, and we stayed upstairs in like a big playroom, and me, Gavin, and Brickhouse all slept in the same room in a big old room together. So that was fun. I got closer with Brickhouse, and he ended up being one of my roommates my junior year too. Gavin had to leave a little bit early because his arm, I think his arm tightened up or something. But that was a lot of fun. You got to play against, some of the best players in the country. I pitched really well there. That was a lot of fun. That was one of my highlights of my college career, was getting to go up there. I think Coach Godwin kind of wanted me to stay back and be in the weight room and just making sure I was ready to go for next season. But I'm really glad I got to go up there for the exposure to scouts and to face a lot of good hitters and play with a lot of good players, and you learn little things here and there from those guys. And so that was fun. And the history of the Cape to play up there, it was really cool.
Trey, I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but I mean, whether it's in college or in the Cape, maybe who is maybe the top bat or a couple of the top bats you faced?
The top bat I faced was Spencer Torkelson. I got to face him. Actually, when I faced him, I really didn't know who he was. I got down 3-1, and I put a meatball right down the middle, and he hit it about 500 feet. So I didn't know he was going to be the number 1 overall pick in a couple of years, but he took me deep. Best arm I saw. I know who the best arm was. Our closer was Jacob Wallace from UConn, and he had a really good year there. I think he had a 0 ERA for most of the time, and he was throwing gas. I think he was up to 98, and he just every time he would come to the game, he would shut the door. He was a good guy. I got close friends with him too. So when we played UConn, I got to talk to him a little bit, and he was probably the best arm I saw out there.
Obviously, the 2021 season for East Carolina, we hope, is right around the corner. Scheduled to play Rhode Island on February 19th. Jason Dietrich, new pitching coach, entering his second season. Have you had the opportunity to get to know him, even though you obviously didn't play for him?
I haven't gotten to know him that close, but I've met him and talked to him a little bit. And my brother actually, he was there last year, so he got to work with him. And I've only heard good things about Coach Dietrich. I talk to Tyler Smith all the time because Tyler Smith was my roommate my freshman year on up. My whole time there, they always have good things to say about him and how he's handling their pitching staff and helping them develop. So I think, as it looks right now, their pitching staff is going to be real nasty this year. So hopefully they're ready to roll.
And, tell us about over these next few weeks, everything, and give us the Cliff Notes version of what you're going to be doing in preparation for the 2021 season. And I know you said you'll be heading out to Arizona, of course.
Yeah, so I'm waiting to hear for sure if I'm going to go out to Arizona for a week or two to throw with those, the coordinators and pitching guys out in Arizona for a couple of weeks. just because they still haven't seen me off a mound in person. They've just seen it on video since we got sent home in March for COVID. But also, I think I might end up going down to Florida with Jake Agnos is down there at working at Cressy Performance down there in Jupiter, Florida. And I might end up going down there to work with the pitching guys just to make sure I'm sharp and ready to go for spring training. But Jake's been blowing my phone up for the past 4 or 5 months trying to get me to go live with him down there because I guess he's lonely. But yeah, he wants me to go live with him. So I might end up going down there for a month and a half or so just to work with those guys and hang out with Jake a little bit.
I know your family really has a big background in racing. So if you would, excuse me, talk about that and, the role that played in addition to baseball being so important to you growing up.
Yep. So when I was growing up, a lot of my memories were around the racetrack. So my grandpa owned a racing team. Actually, right beside my house, right here, it's probably 100 feet is the race shop where they build the cars and all that stuff. So started out in the Hooters Pro Cup Series, which they just raced around the state kind of, and I think you went to like Florida and Georgia a little bit. But my dad was actually on the pit crew. He was a tire changer, so it was pretty cool just to go over, walk next door and see him working on race cars and stuff. And ended up getting into the NASCAR Truck Series. They raced that. They raced that a lot, and then they got a few races in the Monster Energy Series, where I think it was it might have been Monster Energy Series or whatever. The big dogs. They raced at Daytona with them a few times, so it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool story. My brothers, both, my twin brothers that both play at Wilmington now, they got into it a little bit. They started racing. They were called the Bandolero cars, which were almost like go-karts with a body on them. And they would go to races, throughout the state. I think they would go to like Charlotte, and they would go to Rockingham and race there. And my grandpa was really trying to get them into racing. He couldn't get me into it because I just always had a love for baseball, and I didn't want to do anything else but play baseball. But my brothers were into it for a little bit, but then they also fell into baseball a little bit more, and they fell in love with that more than they did racing too. But it's always a cool story to tell that you have some racing in your blood a little bit. But it's I enjoy it, like going to some races. Now we don't really do as much with owning the team. Like my grandpa owned the team. We don't race cars out of our team anymore. We do more of my family business, like sponsors the cars in the truck series and the Monster Energy Series now.
Hopefully you'll have a lengthy baseball career in your future for sure. But after you hang up the cleats, I know you majored in business management at East Carolina. Do you think is racing, or you think you want to get in coaching, or what do you think you want to do?
So my family owns a tire business through North and South Carolina, so that's always my backup plan. But I don't know if I could ever, whenever my baseball career ends, I don't know if I could just step away from baseball. So I've thought about coaching, obviously coaching or scouting or something, because I love being involved in the game, and I think I have a pretty good eye for talent and how to develop pitchers based on what I've been through and the coaching I've had up to this point. So I know that's always a thing in the back of my mind too, but hopefully I don't have to think about that for a while and I can keep on playing.
Mike Radford chiming in again. We were talking about where the Pirates and Tar Heels were ranked in that 2019 midweek matchup. We were 8th and UNC was 12th. So huge midweek game that had a lot of hosting implications. But you've been very generous with your time, Trey. Before we let you go, I know a guy you had the opportunity to get to know, your true freshman year in the fall of 2016. Mark Minikasi, former Pirate third baseman, PGX Gloves. Definitely check out pgxgloves.com. Those guys have been nice enough to partner with us, and they are certainly sponsoring and presenting 23 Jungle Tales, customized gloves, batting gloves, golf gloves, football gloves, swag, you name it. Mark Minikasi and PGX Gloves can provide it for you, and he actually has a customized Pirate line as well, and has his logo on some purple and gold shirts and black shirts, really sharp looking. So you can go to pgxglove.com and check that out. But really appreciate your time this afternoon, Trey. You've been very generous and spent a lot of time with us, but we'll certainly have our eye on your professional career, and we'd love to have you back on the program sometime down the road.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Pirate Nation, that is former East Carolina right-hander Trey Benton. You've been listening to 23 Jungle Tales on the Sports Objective, the unofficial podcast of the Pirates. All these interviews and our other content can be seen on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. The audio can be heard anywhere you listen to our show, including but not limited to Google Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, SoundCloud, and Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social media, on Twitter at TheSportsOBJ, on Instagram at The Sports Objective. Like and follow us on Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. As always, we appreciate you listening to the show. Go Pirates!